Hello, everyone. All right, I see a lot of you are joining. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for joining us. This is the third session of this webinar series introducing the Pearson International Certificate Computer-Based Test. Today, we're going to be talking about online proctoring and how we've brought this new delivery method, ensuring secure testing from the comfort of home. My name is Carmen Quintana. I'm the Associate Product Manager for an International Certificate, and I'm going to be walking you through this session today. So just to give you a little bit of background on the information we'll be covering today, we're going to talk a little bit about English language learning and the assessment landscape today. Then we're going to talk about specifically Pearson English International Certificate in its new computer-based delivery mode. Then we're going to talk about how International Certificate and OnView have joined and collaborated to bring you secure testing from the comfort of home. And we're going to go into a bit more specific details about OnView and how it works. Briefly mention how to get results. I'm going to share some insights in terms of teacher and learner's perspective, and we'll have some time at the end for Q&A. Please make sure that you write your questions in the Q&A box. You're going to have the chat, but you're also going to have the Q&A box. So please make sure you put your questions in the Q&A box. My lovely co-host for today is Sophia Fergus. She's going to be monitoring the Q&A box, and she will be able to help answer some of your questions before the end of the session. But by the end of the session, we'll also have some time to address some of the questions that we might not have covered. So let's talk a little bit about the landscape of English language learning and assessment today. We note that there are still about 1.5 billion English language learners. These are people all over the world who, for their own particular reasons, want to learn English. Now, we also know that nearly 100% of these people and their teachers were affected by COVID, as has pretty much the entire world. By February 2021, only 50% of the language schools and test centers were open. And the end of the summer is showing some setbacks related to the impact of new variants. Now, learning a language, teaching a language, preparing for testing, and testing itself had to adapt to meet the needs of this constant change. And what we used to call normality has been redefined. And that goes beyond just English language learning and assessment, but we'll focus on that for today. Now, in this context, this ever-changing context, we ask teachers, how important is demonstrating English proficiency? And the result was astounding. 75% of the people who responded said that demonstrating English proficiency is now more important than ever. And this might have to do with how the ways of working have changed and how the ways of learning have changed as well. Now, how can we help? We also asked them, how can we help test takers everywhere demonstrate their English proficiency? How can we make this more accessible? And again, the answer that we got from teachers is that computer-based testing is critical for equity and access, for bridging the gap of who can access a proficiency certificate. So to that question, 72% of our respondents said that computer-based testing was very important. We also wanted to understand a little bit about the learner's perspective. Why do learners feel they need to certify their English proficiency? Why do they want to do it? And to do this, we conducted a survey with test takers in Europe and Mexico and Argentina to understand their motivations. More often than not, Their motivations are work-related. They want to benefit their careers. But there's not just one single motivation sometimes. Learners want to improve their careers, but they also want to improve their English in general. They also feel that improving their English would help them advance in their current jobs. They feel that it could help them get a new job, or it could progress their university application. And of course, it could also allow them to communicate with friends, or there's a percentage as well that do it as part of their secondary education. So motivations are diverse across different populations and age groups. Now, we also wanted to know how are test takers using their English proficiency certificates? And the vast majority of them attach them to their CVs. They use them as a way to demonstrate to future employers that they have achieved a certain proficiency level. This can sometimes be a requirement for a job. We know this. Certain employers will require a certain level of English, or it can be a requirement for university. So you're applying for your local university and you want to demonstrate you achieve a certain level. So again, the way the certificates are used will vary depending on the motivation of the learners and their needs. And also, we've heard about using them on LinkedIn or sending them via email to demonstrate to the people they're reaching that they have achieved this proficiency level. So that was just a little bit of background on where we currently stand in terms of language learning and language testing, English language learning and testing specifically. And now I want to dive in a little bit more into Pearson English International Certificate. Now, what is Pearson English International Certificate? It's an assessment of communicative ability. So the primary focus is always to test language in the way it's used in real life. With Pearson English International Certificate, you can test all 6 levels of the Common European Framework, and you can test all 4 skills. It is a test that's suitable for learners ages 14 and older. And it's a regulated qualification awarded by Pearson Edexcel, the UK's largest awarding body. Now, as of right now, Pearson English International Certificate is available in 2 formats. It's paper-based format, which many of you may already know, with a separate speaking section. And the computer-based test that is launching in the fall and has been in beta testing since summer 2021. Again, some of you may be familiar with the beta testing because your institutions might have participated in it. As I mentioned, this is a regulated qualification, it's regulated by Ofqual. And our paper-based format has 7 sessions per year. And our computer-based format is introducing on-demand testing, which means that you're going to be able to test with as little as 24 hours in advance, or in some cases even less with online proctoring. But I'll get to that in just a little bit. International certificate is awarded to learners in over 50 countries. And interestingly enough, this was originally developed by the University of London in 1985. With the computer-based test, we will also be introducing details for reports and practice tests that can predict the test taker's outcomes. So lots of exciting things coming there. Now, I'm not going to dwell too much here, but I did want to show you that our computer-based test at glance has a number of common items in structure with our paper-based test. The items highlighted in yellow are the ones that are different, and these are mostly integrated skill items. And these items allow us to better test the skills as they are normally used, because in the real world, you often read and write and listen and write and do these types of integrated skills tasks. So in essence, lots of common items, but also integrated skill items. And these integrated skill items also allow us to have a shorter test. So all 6 levels of the test can be taken in under 2 hours. So if you want to test an A1 test, you would need to allow for an hour and 25 minutes. If you take a C2 test, you would need to allow for an hour and 55 minutes. Now we'll talk a little bit about how this might change in terms of online proctoring, but in essence, because we have integrated skill in the items, this allows us to have a shorter test. All right, so now I'd like to go over International Certificate and ComView. And this is a secure, reliable, and convenient way to certify English proficiency from the comfort of home. And I know that you probably are asking yourselves, how can we do this? And I'm going to give you all the information you need just now. So International Certificate has partnered with OnView. OnView is part of the Pearson View organization. And we can deliver the tests with their ultra flexible, ultra convenient new delivery mode. You can test from home with full online proctoring without compromising in security and making sure that you have total confidence in your comfort. So you can do a system check, you can make sure that your equipment is suitable to take the test, but you also don't need to download any special software to do that. And all the check-in process and the security validation is embedded and step-by-step guided in the test. Now let's go into the details of how it works. How does online proctoring with OnView work? It all starts with Test Hub, our test platform designed to provide test takers and institutions with a seamless experience. So it starts there. Test takers have to go into their accounts or create their accounts if they don't have one. They will see that they have been assigned an international certificate test. They can run a system test, which is strongly recommended that they do before booking the test. And then they can book their international certificate exam.
Can I just interrupt you 1 second? Sorry, it's Sophia here. I just noticed that there's a block over the top of your screen. It's not a major thing, but we're unable to see like the top line of the title on your screen. So if you have like a window open, maybe, or something that's kind of sitting over the top of your screen. It's not a major thing, but just if there was something that you could close.
Thank you for that, Sophia. See, Sophia is in charge of the magic and making sure everything looks good. I wonder if that's just the sharing screen thing.
Don't worry too much. It's just yeah, as I say, it's just kind of half of the top of your heading when there's a 2-line heading. So it's not a major thing, but just if it's something easy, then yeah, don't worry.
Yeah, because I can't seem to remove it.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll let you know if it's a problem, but yeah, go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Sophia. Okay, so for test takers, all the info they need at a glance. From their Test Hub accounts, test takers can run the system test. So if they have any issues with their hardware or their software, they can learn it in advance and they can sort it. They can book the test directly from their Test Hub account. They can check into their exam, and then they, of course, will be able to access results once they do that. When they book the test, they will see a screen very similar to this one, where they have to input all their personal details. They will be reminded to review the ID policy. Because this is a certificated test, it's very important that they enter their personal details exactly as they would appear on their ID. And then they will submit this, and they will be taken to their booking. For institutions, again, seamless experience. From their Test Hub accounts, institutions can assign tests. they can invite test takers, they can monitor if exams have been booked, if exams have been completed, if they have been rescheduled, if they have been canceled. And then of course they can access results for the entire institution, for individual groups that they have created, and also for individual students if they choose to. Now going back to the test taker, online proctoring allows for a degree of convenience and flexibility that is a huge innovation for proficiency and certificated testing. You can book an appointment. Once you have completed your candidate details, you will be redirected and you will be able to book an appointment at a time and date that's most suitable to you as a test taker. Within the on-view system, there are typically appointments available every 15 minutes. You can select your time zone. You can select the day, the month as prescribed by your institution. And you can select the time of the date, whether very early in the morning or very late in the evening or night when you would like to take your test. Now, there's a note here that institutional candidates might be subject to a testing window. And this is because as an institution, I can decide when I want my students to be able to go in and book the test. So let's say I want them to take the test between the 1st and the 31st of October. So I can limit that window. And when test takers belonging to my institution go and book the test, they will only see appointments available within that date range. Now, once the test taker has booked the test, they will receive reminders about their test day on their email. And they can check in using their Test Hub account. They log into their Test Hub account 30 minutes prior to their appointment. They will see the check-in button and they will be guided through the check-in process to begin their test. So once they click on the check-in button, they will have to copy their access code. They will download an executable. This is not a program. This does not stay on their computers. It's just they execute the download, and once they finish the testing, they can delete it. Nothing has to stay on the computer. They click run, they confirm or they enter their access code. And then they will begin the check-in process. I'm going to take you step by step through the check-in process so you can have the confidence and reassurance of how secure this is. First, they will need to provide a phone number. They will also do a system check. They will have pictures taken. They will have ID verified, workspace verified, and a run of no applications can be running in the background before the test is taken. Test takers who are under the age of 18 will need to provide parental consent prior to taking the test. And it's a very simple process. If a person under the age of 18 is checking in to take the test, then the consenting adult will need to be there for the check-in process. They will show their ID and answer a simple question saying that they provide consent for the test taker to take the test. And then the test taker will continue with the rest of the process on his or her own. Now, I would like to make a note here that test takers will need to use their phone during the verification process. They will need it to take pictures of themselves, their ID, and the workspace. But once they start the test, one of the test rules is that their phone is kept out of arm's reach. So let's start with the test taker's photos. You provided your phone number. As a test taker, you receive a code, you open the check-in window, and you're guided step by step through what you have to do. So you have to take your photo, and you will receive guidance on how to take your photo. It will tell you if you're too close or if it's not adequate. And once you're in an adequate position, you'll take your photo, you can accept it, hit submit, and continue with the check-in process. Then we go on to ID verification. You will need to select the type of ID that you're using. For information on our ID policy, you can check out our website for OnView on international certificate, but we accept most government issued IDs. At the time of doing your ID verification, the type of ID that you select will determine if you need to take 1 or 2 photos. For example, for a national ID document in Argentina, they would need to take pictures of the front and the back of the ID. For a passport, they would just need to take the photo of the page, including personal data. Now, the ID is verified electronically, and they check for 3 primary elements. Is this a valid document? Is this a valid form of ID? So valid means it is one of the accepted IDs and that is non-expired at the time of the test. They'll also do a face match. Is the person testing the same person on the valid ID document? They do a face comparison. And then they also compare names. Does the name on the ID match the registration name? That's why it's so important for candidates to use their names exactly as they appear on their ID when registering for the test. Then they will look at the work area. You will be required to take 4 pictures. Picture of the front of your workspace, including your desk, picture to the left and to the right, and a picture of the back. These pictures are meant to ensure that your workspace is private, decluttered, that you don't have any materials or any supporting materials on your desk, and that the environment is suitable and test conducive. When taking an online proctor test, it's really important that the test taker is in a private, quiet space, free of interruptions, so that they can complete the test successfully. Now, before the test can be launched, all other programs must be closed. Remember, this is a secure software. All other applications have to be closed except for OnView. So if there's anything running in the background, the test taker will be prompted to close that application or that program. And sometimes they might need to use the task manager. So if you don't know that an application is running in the background, you might need to use the task manager to close the app, but you will be prompted to do so here. Once everything is completed, a greeter, a person will review the info that has been submitted. They will look at photos, the ID, the workspace. And once the info is accepted, the greeter will launch the test in a secure browser. What the secure browser does is completely locks the screen. The test taker cannot go to any other programs. They cannot attempt to open any other applications. They will be in full test environment. And if they try to close the secure browser, they will automatically exit the test. Now, once the test is launched, test takers will be monitored by live view certified proctors. That is a real person monitoring the entire test session. Along with that certified proctor, we also have artificial intelligence for the duration of the test. So the proctor serves a number of different roles. The proctor is there to ensure that the test is conducted in a secure manner, that it is a good faith attempt, that the candidate is not engaging in any inadequate test behavior. And if they see a situation that they identify as suspicious, they will reach out to the test taker via chat. They will also reach out to the test taker via phone. So in all instances, they will try to communicate with the test taker to resolve the situation. So that's their primary role, ensuring test security. But they can also help test takers troubleshoot technical issues. So if a test taker were to experience a brief technical issue, they can help the test taker resume their test session and continue with their test experience. Alongside the proctor, as I mentioned, we also have artificial intelligence, making sure that the person taking the test, the face is matched to the person who initially checked in to take the test. Now, this combination of online proctoring and international certificate, it provides test takers and institutions with multiple advantages. But just to name a few, it gives them flexibility to choose test location, test date, and test time without having to travel to a test center. In many countries, candidates were traveling very long distances to their test locations, and sometimes having to travel more than once in order to take a separate spoken component. With OnView and international certificate, they can take both components, or they can have their 4 skills assessed in one go, in one appointment. It also has the advantage of being secure end-to-end. It is a secure test environment from the moment they check into the test to the moment the test is finished and they close the browser. Another advantage is that it gives test takers the possibility of using equipment that's familiar to them. And to some test takers, that's important because they're familiar with their hardware, they know how to use it, they know how to troubleshoot it. So that gives them an advantage. And of course, there's the advantage of having a one-stop platform for everything that they need to do, from booking to signing in to viewing results using English Test Hub. Now, OnView and International Certificate are launching together in the fall, and it's a first for International Certificate. But OnView has delivered more than 2.2 million tests from home. And these tests have been taken by more than 150 businesses in a variety of different industries, going from IT to healthcare to professional and government agencies to education. And it has the great advantage that tests can be delivered, as we said, almost at any time, because we have proctors live in most countries in the world. Now, getting results. As I said, results will be available on Test Hub. Candidates will get a score report that will give them information about their overall performance, but also how they perform across the different skills. Now, just to note that during 2021, results from computer-based tests will take longer as we standardize scoring. And this is a really important part of our process. Our tests are equivalent. So in order to validate that equivalence, we're going to be looking at all the tests that are taken and standardizing the scoring to make sure that candidates taking the paper-based format and candidates taking the computer-based format can both demonstrate their skills. As of 2022, however, our scores will take about 2 weeks, which is an incredibly quick turnaround time. And of course, as we mentioned, scores will be available from Test Hub. Part of the enhancements of the computer-based tests include new and digital score reports that will give test takers feedback on how they performed and recommended activities to progress within their level or towards the next level. Group reports will allow institutions to measure, track, and compare individual and class performance. And of course, recommended activities and specific exercise for improvement, but also for remediation within each skill set. Test takers who successfully pass the test will also receive a printed watermark certificate by post within a few weeks. as you can see, and if you're familiar with the paper-based exam, the certificates are the same. So they will receive a printed certificate, and that will be sent to them. And they will also have the digital score report. Now, we've been asking a lot of questions about online proctoring to teachers and test takers alike. And we ran a survey in different countries, in Poland, in Italy, Spain, Mexico, Argentina, to understand the needs around online proctor exams before and after COVID. Because of course, COVID has radically changed so many things around how people learn a language and test for a language. So when we asked them if before COVID-19, they would have chosen to take this test from home, 45% of them said no. It wasn't a thought that they had considered. And 18% said they didn't know. Now, after COVID-19, how likely would candidates be? How likely is it that they would choose to take the test from home? And the percentages increase dramatically. So it quite likely 33%, very likely 47%. So the perspective around online proctor tests has radically shifted, especially in countries such as Spain and Argentina. We also asked teachers if they thought that English proficiency testing from home was an appropriate solution for their learners. 54% of them said it was a great solution for equal access to testing. However, a significant number of them also expressed concerns around not sure if it would work in their community because of technology or internet access, not sure if they were secure enough, or simply they expressed that they wanted their learners to take the test at a center they knew and trusted. And this is perfectly valid. Online proctor tests are an alternative that will coexist with other test delivery modes, including computer-based test delivery in test centers and also paper-based test delivery, because the idea is to provide flexibility in test delivery modes to cater to the different needs and preferences of test takers and teachers and institutions alike. Now, after sharing all this information, which I realize is a lot of information with you, I would like to know what you think. Tell us what you think. And I would like for you to go to slido.com and enter this code or scan this QR and tell me, after today's session, do you think online proctor English proficiency testing is an appropriate solution for your learners? We're going to be able to see their responses in real time. So remember, slido.com, enter the code here, or scan the QR and vote. Can't wait to see your answers. We're going to give it a couple of minutes. So we're going to give 2 more minutes. Go ahead and vote. So far, it's looking like a whopping yes. Remember, scan the QR or go to slido.com and enter your answers. I'm going to leave the poll open for another minute or so in case some of our participants haven't been able to vote. See some more answers coming in. We still have a few seconds. Make sure you vote. Make sure you let us know what you think. You guys are super active. I see a lot of votes coming in. Thank you so much for participating. And All right. Okay, so I went back. From that result, we can see about 81% of you now think this is a great solution for equal access testing. Some are not sure if it will work in your community due to lack of technology or internet issues. And if you want to know more about that, please reach us and we can give you information about the basic technical requirements in order to use online proctoring. And some of you still have reservations as to whether it would be secure enough. And as we said, online proctoring is an option to give you flexibility when choosing a delivery mode for your English proficiency international certificate exam. So it's totally up to you which way you go. Oh, I see some more answers coming in. And of course, sometimes you also want to choose the test center you know and trust. So at this point, I'm going to stop sharing. Thank you so much for answering on that poll. And I want to see if we have some questions.
Hi, so yes, thank you so much, Carmen. Yeah, we have had some questions in. Let me think which one to ask you first. So the first one that came in was around CEFR level, and this is just about the exam in general. If a test taker is not sure of their CEFR level, which test should they register for, and how can they be sure which level they should be aiming for?
That's a great question. Thank you. So typically, institutions are preparing their test takers for a particular level. So teachers tend to have a really good idea of what level their candidates are prepared for. But if they want to have the assurance of that, they can always take a readiness test. And the readiness test will let them know if they are ready to take the test, if they are potentially ready, and it will give them recommendations of which areas they need to prepare more. And it can also let them know if they're not ready. So that's an alternative.
Fantastic. Yes, that's really useful. If a test taker has special needs, for example, something like a screen enlarger would help them take their test and have fair access to the test. Is this something that can be given permission to run through OnView?
Absolutely. So if a test taker requires any form of accommodation, they will need to fill out a form, and we will share all these details with you in our test taker handbook. But if they need to have any form of accommodation, they will need to fill out a form, provide evidence of their need, and then they will be able to have assistive software such as Zoom text or something along those lines to help them take the test. So yes, we do provide accommodations as well as extended time to cater to additional needs.
Fantastic. All right, thank you very much. Someone's asked if the readiness test is free.
No, the readiness test is a paid product. If you would like more information about that, you can contact your Pearson local representative. You can also contact me and I can tell you more about it. But if you're looking for free practice resources, our warm-up app has computer-based items that they can use to practice as well. It won't let you know if they are ready, like it won't give you those ready, potentially ready, not ready indicators and the specific recommendations for the level, but it will give you practice with the specific item types of the test.
Fantastic, and they can download that app from our website, I believe, on Android and Apple.
Yes, that's correct. Thank you, Sophia.
Super. There's a question I haven't had a chance to read through myself properly, but let me read it out to you. If I understood correctly, no special application is needed to take the exam. All the candidate has to do is enter their account, start the exam, proceed with phone number, system check, ID check, room display, application checking along with the proctor, and then the secure browser will lock the PC environment. I think, yeah, we're looking for like just a sort of quick kind of clarification of the process for starting the exam. Yeah.
Thank you. So typically in one of our most common contexts, the exam would be assigned by an institution. So your institution assigns you a test, you go into your Test Hub account, you book your test, you go into your Test Hub account to check into your test, you do all the process through there. So there wouldn't be a specific application process in order to take the test. However, later down the line, we're also going to have independent learners who can purchase the test. So in that case, they would go through our website, select their test, purchase it, and then using Test Hub as well, they would be able to book their test and check in and get access to their results. But there's no specific application in order to be a tester.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay. And another question was, how can our audience get hold of this test? So both, which you covered a little bit, but in terms of teachers and institutions and also individuals.
So if you'd like to know more about this test, if you think international certificate and especially online proctoring are right for you and for your institution and your learners, please reach out to your local representative. If you don't know who your local representative is, you can reach out to me. My email is carmen.quintana@pearson.com, and we can give you more information and direct you to a local representative who can give you more details in terms of when the test will be available in your market, in terms of pricing, and any other details that you might want to know.
Fantastic, thank you. We have a question here about technical problems. So if someone's experiencing issues while they're during their test, what can they do?
That's a really good question. So if somebody is experiencing issues during their test, the proctor, as I mentioned, has that dual role of support as well. So they will work with the test taker to try and resume the test. They will work with the test taker to try and resume the test for about 30 minutes tops. So let's say your internet went out or your power went out. These types of things are impossible to predict, but they can certainly happen. And the proctor will help you try to retrieve your exam during this period of time. If they're unable to do so, then they will log a case on your behalf and you will be able to rebook your test at no cost to you.
Wonderful, that's clear, thank you. We have a question about pricing. It may be complicated to answer, but are you able to give any insight around that?
For pricing, you are best suited contacting your local representative. They will have the information about pricing for your region.
Okay, thank you. And how do we make sure that test takers do close all the applications on their computer and that nobody has entered the room and all of these rules that we have in place? How do we ensure that those are followed after they've shown the picture of their workspace? How do we know that that remains secure?
It's a very good question. So after the test is ongoing, as I said, the proctor will be monitoring the test live. If they detect anything that seems like suspicious behavior, they will flag it. So they will attempt to contact the test taker. Let's say somebody enters the room. If it's accidental, they will tell the test taker to ask the person to leave the room. If the person does not leave the room, then they're non-compliant and it's a breach in security. So proctors can revoke tests for behaviors that compromise the security of testing. Remember, this is a test and we want to make sure this is a secure environment for the test and that it ensures fairness throughout it.
Fantastic, thank you very much. I think we've come to the end of our questions for now, unless anybody has any. Sorry, there's one last question. Practice. So you mentioned the warm-up app and the readiness test. Are there other resources to help students familiarize themselves with the test and teachers as well?
Yes, absolutely. So there are, and I think Melanie might have mentioned this at her webinar last week. So we have a set of lesson plans that are specifically focused on each item type that you can find in the test. It gives you tips and strategies to work on those item types in your normal lesson, and also how to incorporate practice that does not solely focus on the test, but that occasionally incorporates some item familiarization. So those resources are free and available for download. So if you'd like to get more information, please do contact us about that. You have the warm-up app, which is completely free, and you have computer-based test items on that. And then, of course, you also have paid resources, which are the readiness test, and we will have a practice bank coming later down this year. So just a reminder before I forget, next week, we're going to be talking about scoring for international certificate and the human element in how we're doing this whole standard setting process. And that's going to be amazing. It's going to be led by Ben Cook, our assessment manager. And I encourage you to register to that and join us at that session as well.
Fantastic, thank you. Yes, I've just put the link into the chat, so please do register and sign up. That's the last event in this series. And yeah, thank you very much to you, Carmen, and to everybody who's joined. Really fantastic session and really clear. We've had lots of love coming in for you, Carmen, on the chat. So thank you again. And yeah, have a lovely day.
Thank you all so much for joining us, and please do join us our upcoming session. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach us. Thank you and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.